And then just on a different topic, starting pitching, you guys have obviously been great. I think a lot of people from the outside looking in to start the year said this, is a question mark for your team. How much of what has transpired over the last 3 weeks is what you expected versus, a matter of you guys coaching them up? To what extent has it been what you envisioned?
I think we felt throughout the offseason into spring training that we had depth and numbers of quality starters who were going to pitch for us over the course of the year. I didn't love losing 3 of them before we got to opening day. That's not exactly how we had it mapped out. But we had confidence in the guys who were healthy, and they've all done a fantastic job. I don't know going into a season that you ever predict a 2 ERA or whatever we've got right now with our starting rotation. That's probably not sustainable for 162. But it doesn't surprise me that we're putting together very good starts and getting ourselves through the 5th and 6th inning with regularity and turning the game over to our pen in a good place.
Mark on the right.
Getting back to center field, Drew Gilbert, now that he's at AAA, I know he has a pretty good week through runner out at home. Do you have a specific amount of at-bats he needs to get, given last year how many games he missed because of injury?
I tend not to look at this as a specific threshold, whether it's at-bats or innings. I think it's more of how is the player we want? How is the player playing? We want a player to have success at the level, ideally, before we promote them. And then is there a need? And we saw with Acuna last year, sometimes needs force our hands, and to his credit, he stepped up and was able to do it. And so if a need forces our hand somewhere down the road, we'll certainly look at it. But ideally, we give prospects a chance to really have a high level of success at a particular level before we ask them to do it in the big leagues.
John?
Yeah, I believe you were 16th or 17th in attendance last year. This year, it's markedly up. Is that a reflection of the finish last year, the start this year, signing Soto combination? And what do you think of the reaction for Soto in that game where he got a standing ovation?
I think our fans in general have been outstanding this year. It's been fun coming to the ballpark. I get a sneak peek at some of the attendance numbers ahead of a homestand, and some of them I did double takes where it's like, wow, that's really good for April. And not only has the numbers been good on paper, but it has felt like that in the ballpark, and so it's exciting. Our players have talked about it. I think we all feel it when we're here, and why that is probably a combination of everything you mentioned. I think we had a fun run last year. Our fans believe in this team, and we've played pretty well out of the chute here, which probably helps as well.
Jake?
Last year was such a unique season for so many different reasons. I'm curious for you, when you look back on that, what did you learn from that experience as someone kind of tasked with building rosters? Was there anything about it that maybe changed your perspective at all?
I don't know. I think you learn sort of once again, and you tend to learn it in this job over and over again, that you got to kind of plan for the unexpected or leave room for the unexpected. What our team looks like on April 1st is going to look very different on August 1st and hopefully October 1st. And that's just the way these things go. It's the way baseball seasons play out. And you try to put yourself in the best position you possibly can as an organization every day. And guys will step up. And we had that last year. And I couldn't have predicted the particular names that were going to do it on opening day. And we had a lot of guys do it and ultimately had a really fun year.
Tim Britton?
Going off Anthony's question, with Clay Holmes specifically, how has what he's been able to do through a handful of starts aligned with maybe your expectations or vision for him as a starter?
I think this is what we thought he was going to be able to do. With Clay and this transition, so much of it is, how is the repetition of this going to work out? How is this going to progress over the course of the season? I don't think there was too much of a question, internally at least, as to whether the stuff could play multiple times through the lineup. And certainly as he got into his offseason and spring training and started working through a slightly revamped arsenal, we could see that the stuff quality was really good. And so now it's just a question of how do we maintain this every 5 or 6 days, and how do we make sure we're putting him in the best position possible to get through an entire season.
Manny?
Kind of along the same lines, but more about the pitching coach, Jeremy Hefner. I think he's been here through 3 managers now, second president of baseball operations. Just how do you evaluate the job he's done, and how directly responsible is he for how this pitching staff has developed over the last 2 years?
I think Jeremy does a great job. I think we're fortunate to have a really talented coaching staff across the board here at the major league level. There's so much work that goes behind the scenes that very, very few people see to help our players get better, prepare our players each and every day for competition, and keep our players going through 162 games. I think we've got a really talented staff across the board, and Jeremy deserves a lot of credit for what our pitching staff has been able to do.
Jared on the left.
Staying with the pitchers, in the time you've been here, you've sort of built these rotations by asking pitchers to do things that they really haven't done before or hadn't done in a while. Like, what are you looking for when you look for pitchers to bring in? What is the thing that tells you, hey, this guy has maybe more, he could do more than we've seen in the past?
It's probably different for each guy. And I think at the highest level, we're looking for tools or attributes that allow them to get major league hitters out consistently. And sometimes that's going to be a slight usage change. Sometimes that may be changes in the weight room or the training room. And so it's very difficult to say we're looking at this specific thing for all pitchers to bring into the organization. It's very specific to an individual. And I think we're fortunate that we have the infrastructure here and we have the personnel here throughout our major league operation and throughout our organization to capitalize on whatever that need is for a particular player. We probably have the resources to help that particular player. We are not going to get all of them right. We have not gotten all of them right, but I think those the ability to meet a player where he needs to be met at is very helpful.
Dave?
Dave, attendance-wise, Steve said that was something that was obviously very important to him before the season started. And the atmosphere you've created here so far is aligned with what he kind of envisioned. Can you create a real home field advantage? Can that be a real thing?
I think we have it. It feels like we have it right now. Good players helps as well, but certainly, I think we have the ability, and our fan base historically has shown the ability to make this an uncomfortable place for opposing players. When I was on the fan side of this thing, it's fun to come to a ballpark. That's an uncomfortable place for opposing players, and it's a whole heck of a lot of fun for our players to see that when it happens. So I think we are getting to that point where our players really enjoy this atmosphere and can take up their level of intensity to another notch. And on the flip side, it can get pretty hostile and loud for the opposition as well, and that's not a bad thing.
I mean, for data-wise, it's not something you can really quantify home field advantage, but is the only thing that matters that the players say that they like playing in an atmosphere like that will increase performance technically?
Yeah, I think that's right. If players are getting energized to play here throughout the course of the year, that is important, and that means something, and we will play better because of it.
Joe on the right.
After the winter that was had with Pete Alonso, is this as good of a start you could have envisioned for him?
Yeah, I mean, what Pete's doing is as good a start as you could envision for I think any human. This is pretty impressive. He's locked in. His zone control is incredible right now. He's hitting everything hard. I've been enormously impressed.
Howie on the left.
David, we've all seen how a positive chemistry and camaraderie within a clubhouse and a group can disappear the following year after you have that great chemistry just as easily as it can be created. Did you have any apprehensions about how what was a great thing last year in that regard would carry over into this year? Because the observation is that it seems to have been kind of seamless, and what existed last year in that regard is still there this year. Were you concerned about that, and would you agree that it's the same?
So the only thing I was concerned about and that we talked about a lot internally was that we didn't want to fall in the trap of trying to recreate 2024. It was going to be different. It is different. I think we've got a really good group in there, and they're bonding and they're finding their identity, but it's happening organically. It's not because we're trying to recreate something that happened organically last year. And so that was maybe the only pothole that I wanted us to avoid was focusing too much on what we had last year and just allowing this group, with a lot of the same faces but some different ones, allowing this group the space to create their own thing. And I think we're doing that, and I think once again we have a group that enjoys playing together and that has some fun and is playing pretty well.
Did you have any concerns that bringing in a high-profile player such as Soto could compromise that? And are you surprised that it apparently hasn't?
I didn't have those concerns. I think we've got a strong enough leadership group, which Soto is now a part of. We've got a pretty good coaching staff at kind of keeping a pulse on those things and making this a fun place to play that I wasn't particularly concerned about that.
Manny on the right.
Going back to a couple questions where someone asked about what you look for when you're searching for a pitcher, how much does the staff that you currently have, again going back to Jeremy Hefner, play into that? Like getting a Clay Holmes, did that play a factor? Like, I have confidence that Hefner can make this happen, or
Sure. Yeah, I think having coaches who have the ability to connect with players, wide range of players, different personality types, have the ability to convey information in different ways, design drill packages in different ways for specific players, is a big part of trying to get the most out of any individual. And so on the pitching front, we involve Hef and now Desi and Rosie and Danny Barnes in our off-season pursuits. And that's a big benefit for us.
Do a few more. Tim on the left.
Following up on the center field talk, how long do you expect to be without Siri?
I think from point of injury, it's probably 8 to 10 weeks. And we'll know more once, obviously, we get into baseball activities. But, yeah, it's a good 2 months.
Tony on the right.
Just with the Phillies in town, I know growing up a Mets fan, there always was probably a sense of when the Braves were here, when the Phillies were here, you wait for that other shoe to drop, even if the team's playing well. To what extent do you feel like what you guys accomplished last year has vanquished that a little bit?
So I was never waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was really excited to go to Shea and boo John Rocker. Look, every year's a new year, right? Every year's a new year. And frankly, what we accomplished last year doesn't have a whole lot of bearing on how this is all going to play out this year. I think we feel like we got a good team. The Phillies are a good team. The Braves are a good team. It's going to be a hotly contested division, and we want to play as well as we can right now against a good team.
Do you sense that you've been asked a couple of attendance questions? Like, do you sense more optimism though from the fan base in terms of vis-a-vis where you stand in the division?
Relative to what? Relative to this time last year? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think relative to this time last year, there is certainly more enthusiasm and optimism around the team, and I understand that. We, as an organization, we're coming off of a disappointing year in 23. We got off to a disappointing start last year, and so the circumstances surrounding this late April is very different.
And we'll do one last one from Will over there.
Hey, David, as you've relied on your depth, as we talked about, and you've received this type of production from the rotation, outfield, infield, any part of that, I don't know if surprise, but just maybe confirm some things that you went into believing that it could happen but wanted to see it as far as the production that you've got?
I don't know that anything in particular surprised me here. I think we've probably asked more of certain members of our bullpen than I would have envisioned, certainly when spring training began or even on opening day. Just the way these games have played out, pretty much everyone in our pen has gotten some pretty high leverage appearances and really performed, and that's been very impressive. But I'm proud of how our entire roster and the depth has performed here. We're going to continue to need that to happen over the course of this entire season to have a successful year. And it's nice that so far it has been the case.
All right. Thank you very much for your
Thanks.
time, David.